Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Grayscale's deeper dive into Livepeer. I'm fortunate enough to be joined today by Doug Pekanix, founder of the Livepeer network. Before we get started, I'm going to read through a series of disclosures, so bear with me for a few minutes here. This call is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as or used as investment, tax, or legal advice, an investment recommendation, an IRA provider recommendation, or an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any digital asset or security. Clients of Grayscale may maintain positions in the digital assets discussed on this call. Any opinions expressed throughout this webinar are solely our own and do not necessarily express the views or the opinions of Grayscale or any of its affiliated entities. With that, we can get started. I'm going to kick it over to Doug. Thanks again for joining me today live in person. Can you provide a little bit of background on yourself and how Livepeer came to be created? Like, what problem were you thinking about solving?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Ray. Really excited to be here to talk to Grayscale about Livepeer. As you mentioned, I'm Doug Pekanix, co-founder at Livepeer. For the past 7+ years, we've been on the mission to build the world's open video infrastructure, and Livepeer powers video streaming under the hood for a lot of the top social apps, event streaming apps, media apps, and broadcast apps all around the world. So going back to the origin story, my co-founder, Eric Tang, and I, both engineers by background, and we've actually co-founded and built 2 startups previous to Livepeer, one in the data infrastructure space, successful, had a good acquisition outcome, and then we built one more in the media space where we did a lot of video engineering, and actually that startup completely failed. And part of the reason was that we built on the open APIs of the big tech platforms, Facebook, Google, Pinterest, and Twitter, and kind of halfway through our journey, they all changed their APIs, their developer terms. We essentially got deplatformed from what we were trying to do. And we're like, never again do we want to build on the closed proprietary tech stacks of big tech and have them control our destiny. And so this just so happened to be around the time that blockchain technology was now programmable. And people were building decentralized money, decentralized finance, decentralized identity. And we were super interested in video. From our previous startup, it was 80% of the traffic on the internet. And we saw all of the benefits that an open platform to power video on the internet could enable. And we set out on that mission. After 6 months of research, we said, yes, we can do this. And we've been building this video streaming platform ever since.
Great. And can you tell the audience a little bit just more about those benefits of being decentralized?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, video is one of the heaviest and most important forms of media on the internet. It's how we learn, how we work, how we get entertained. It requires a tremendous amount of infrastructure to ingest and stream video all around the planet. You, especially if you want to do live video, 30, 40 years into the internet, you probably still get frustrated by the experience of video buffering and the wheel spinning when you're trying to stream, on Netflix at night. So, there's only a couple of companies in the world that have all the servers and bandwidth necessary to do video performantly on the internet. Amazon and Google are 2 of them with their big infrastructure platforms. But those products are very expensive. It's hard for startups to access and burst on capacity to build scale streaming apps. And with video, you actually want a bunch of benefits that come from decentralization. Like you want video to be ingested all around the world near where it's being created. You want it to be delivered as close to you as possible from a delivery point that's right down the street from you or in a data center nearby your house. And so creating an open and independent infrastructure that anyone can use, that's global, that's sort of localized, bring a lot of benefits in terms of performance. It also brings benefits in terms of cost because you have people with the server capacity all around the world powering video streaming, competing on price, competing on quality of service, and you end up seeing different portions of the video stack being 50, 70, 90% cheaper than what you have to pay to cloud services to use it if you're using a decentralized network like Livepeer. So we can dive into that a little bit, but benefits in terms of accessibility and cost are primarily interesting to users.
Yeah, it seems like a really elegant solution. So my favorite question, just big step back, how would you explain Livepeer to me if I were 5 years old?
Yep. So when you want to watch your favorite show on the internet or you want to tune into a live stream, just like this. There's a whole series of technology behind the scenes that goes into capturing the video from the cameras, streaming it to data centers where it can be processed so it can be delivered to cell phones, TVs, laptops. You actually have to convert it into many different formats. And then a whole delivery infrastructure around the world to make sure that it's delivered nearby where you're trying to consume it. So Livepeer is all of that behind the scenes infrastructure. So a broadcaster and application captures video, they send it into Livepeer. The Livepeer network is node operators all around the world. They compete on price to process it really quickly, and then it gets delivered to the viewers who want to watch it on the player inside of their mobile app or their web app. So Livepeer is sort of that behind the scenes plumbing that powers the video, makes video go on the internet.
Great explanation. And I actually think a 5-year-old would have understood that. Okay, so let's talk about the users on the Livepeer network. How does this differ from other crypto assets that are focused on the GPU marketplace? Who's using Livepeer?
Right. So you mentioned the GPU marketplace. Why do you do that? Right. The Livepeer network. These are the infrastructure providers. Anyone with extra servers, extra GPUs, which are the types of devices that process video and increasingly generate video using AI or enhance video using AI. These people with that capacity can join the Livepeer network. They can compete on this marketplace to provide this infrastructure. And there's many crypto projects, decentralized tech projects that say we're also a GPU marketplace. People can use us for whatever compute you want to do with a GPU, whether that's cloud gaming or 3D rendering or increasingly AI training or inference, all really valid use cases. The big difference around Livepeer is our mission is laser focused around video and the future of video and media. That means we know who our users are. They're developers building video applications. They're broadcasters and media companies that need a video infrastructure. That's like a $200 billion plus industry. And now with AI-enabled video, the sky's the limit. We don't know how big that market is going to get, but it's going to be huge. All the product that's built around this GPU network is all aimed at those users. And you need to be, because a video developer doesn't just want access to a GPU and have to build a whole stack around it. They need video ingestion, video storage, video delivery, video analytics, a video player, all the different components to make video work well. And it's that laser focus on a big existing market with real utility that makes us different than maybe just an aspirational Web3 project that says we're going to be the future of compute for everything. That's a huge market and a noble opportunity, but our focus has really attracted the right team, community, mission, customer base to sort of keep us on a path that's focused.
So you mentioned the developers. Can you talk to me about the value proposition to the suppliers and to the developers?
Yeah, so for a supplier, so this is someone with a GPU or with a available server and bandwidth for video, their value proposition is they've probably already invested in compute power. They've already bought GPUs, they've deployed them into a data center or sort of a hobbyist setup, and maybe they're used sometimes in other use cases and working business models, that maybe they're mining cryptocurrency, maybe they're trying to run AI models. Some of the time, those GPUs are idle, they're not being used. Other times they're actually being used, but there happens to be video encoding and decoding chips on those GPUs that are not training AI models, that are not mining cryptocurrency. They're actually just pieces of the GPUs that are sitting there doing nothing. For them, Livepeer represents the opportunity to make that capacity available. They can generate additional revenue when it's idle or not being used at almost no opportunity cost, because it's not a trade-off between Livepeer and another task. So for them, it represents additional income with no opportunity cost. So the supply side on Livepeer is very, very robust. There's also really nice incentives. They're sort of growing their ownership in the Livepeer network through the issuance of a Livepeer token. And they believe that'll represent the opportunity to do more work and earn more fees in the future. So clear value proposition on the supply side. Now for our users, the video developers, why would they choose Livepeer? I mentioned for video specific compute, video transcoding, which is kind of converting all the videos into different formats, or increasingly now the exciting like AI processing on video, generating videos via prompts, generating captions, upscaling videos. The compute is far more cost effective than getting it from a cloud provider. It's 50 to 60% more cost effective than sort of the do-it-yourself price on Amazon. It's 90% more cost effective or more than using a premium cloud service. So cost is a big value prop. Accessibility on an open network that's sort of unstoppable, and you can build what you want regardless of your location, jurisdiction, ability to prepay and reserve capacity on cloud makes it really attractive for hackers, developers, researchers, getting started without having to like do a pre-buy to reserve a year's worth of compute capacity from a big cloud provider.
So how do we think about the way the developers or the node operators interact, and how, let's talk about how the token starts to fit in.
Yep. So the Livepeer token basically coordinates and incentivizes the supply side of the network primarily. It is issued to the people, the node operators that are doing work on the network. They stake it, or they essentially lock it in the protocol as a security deposit. The more stake that you have, the more work you're entitled to get, because you're proving that you'll do the work correctly. If you don't, your stake can be essentially taken away from you the way your security deposit could be taken away if you do damage to your apartment, or if you're a construction project, you put down a surety bond and that gets taken away if you don't finish the project, right? So it's the same way the node operators stake the token. In exchange, they can win jobs and do work on the network, and they're incentivized because new token that's issued every day only goes to those who are staking and doing work on the network. It doesn't go to those who are just sort of passively participating. And that has created a really robust supply side and a great community. The token's also used for governance beyond that, so everyone who's been doing the work on the network participates in the future of the protocol and upgrades. There's an on-chain treasury where token holders can vote on public goods funding initiatives as well. The users of the network actually don't need to know about the Livepeer token or even blockchain and crypto so much. They do run a node, they do pay fees in ETH, or essentially US dollars, to use the network. Those are the fees that flow to the node operators, the supply side. And by the way, if you don't want to run a node, you can actually acquire the token and you can stake towards one of the node operators. They'll do the work on your behalf. You're adding more security on their node. You're taking a bit of a risk, but they're sharing back some of the fees that they earn back to you as an incentive. So it's accessible even to those that maybe don't know how to run GPUs as well, to help QA and assure and secure this network. So again, the developers, they can run a Livepeer node. They can pay in ETH to use the network. When you send video in, you send a little micropayment to this infrastructure network, and you get the job done, performantly and correctly, and your video application works. Most video developers don't necessarily use the network directly. They use nice hosted services built on top that hide all of that complexity, and just they can pay with a credit card and use an API key just like they would use on any other video infrastructure platform.
Great. So do you want to show us how this actually works? Or
yeah.
We like for me, I'm very visual, and it's nice to see something tangible. So I will hand it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so I'm starting right here at a website called Livepeer Studio. This is the most commonly used sort of hosted streaming platform built around the Livepeer network. And it looks just like any other video streaming platform, like a Mux or a Vimeo or an Amazon Web Services. It communicates the value propositions to the users. And if they create an account and they log in, they access sort of a dashboard that shows them sort of the code examples of how they integrate in their application, what you can do. I think it's actually more interesting to see some of these applications that are built on Livepeer than to look at developer documentation. So one exciting one I like a lot is called the Lot Radio. It is a sort of a live streaming DJ platform in Brooklyn. And you're probably not seeing too much motion. The DJ must be taking a lunch break right now, but you see a little bit, his rig is going. They're streaming 24/7 from a shipping container in Brooklyn. That's all powered by the Livepeer network. If you're in Brooklyn, you should definitely stop by. They have a nice outdoor beer garden right next to it, and they bring on famous DJs like Skrillex and Fred Again and Fortet have been streaming through Livepeer in Times Square on this platform. We've had thousands and thousands of viewers concurrently. So just one example.
What's on the wall? Is that just like stickers?
This
or?
is all stickers from the
Okay.
different DJs and musical acts.
Wow.
So different use case, event streaming. Here's a platform called StreamEth, and they power streaming from events and conferences. And so, here's an example from the DevCon, big Ethereum developer ecosystem conference, where they powered, 10 concurrent streams on all the stages. There's Vitalik speaking on stage. They do, crypto events, musical events, conferences, etc. So that's a different vertical. Events hire them to stream, and all the streams get powered through Livepeer. Here's a nice social media application, the Orb app. It's one of the sort of leading platforms in the Lens protocol ecosystem. We also power Unlonely, which is a leading platform in the Farcaster ecosystem. Think of their app a little bit like Twitter, but with media. If if a user uploads a video and users are scrolling through the feed and playing video, that's all powered by Livepeer. So here's an example of a social media video that was uploaded. So again, these developers don't have to think about video. They can just integrate it easily, and under the hood, Livepeer powers it. Excited to show sort of an AI-enabled application as well. This is a big initiative in the Livepeer ecosystem where, really exciting, AI models can now generate videos from prompts, and that's going to improve dramatically in the coming year. But that requires a ton of compute. It requires a ton of GPU, almost 1,000 times the amount of compute as using ChatGPT, for example. And so the Livepeer network happens to be a huge network of GPUs. It happens to be really good at running AI models on video. And so, here's an app called Sunameme. It's sort of a prototype app. It's a mobile app, but it's a little bit of a meme creator where users can type prompts and generate these sort of moving memes or GIFs from the prompts. So, you could do a quick example here. Let's say we want to type a prompt like dogs playing poker in HD. Hit the generate button. This is going to use the Livepeer network under the hood to run an AI model and generate, a visual output. Here's a completely generated image that was run on GPUs on the Livepeer network. And I think the app, I won't go through the whole experience, but it lets you, add a caption like, I can have meme, and hit done, and you can GIF it. And probably after about 30 seconds of compute, this will turn into like a moving video. So really excited about this. Is a little limited and kind of toy-like right now, but like I said, in the coming year, you're seeing like advertisers, producers, developers use AI-generated media to do storyboards, to create commercials, these sorts of things, and it's really exciting. So lastly, I'll just highlight, all this usage is reflected in some of the metrics and dashboards. We have the Livepeer Explorer that shows sort of the growing usage of fees paid into the Livepeer network each week, and you see sort of a nice spike here just as we launched these AI capabilities a couple of weeks ago, and we had people using the network to do analysis on video captured in like a Dune Analytics dashboard with a little more granularity. You see this big increase in fees. So I think that really increases the addressable market for the protocol, and it's been a really orienting thing for the community.
And do you want to talk a little bit about this, because you guys have launched a subnet too?
Yeah. So the AI subnet is the sort of the term that we used for the initial beta of these new AI capabilities on the network. For the first few years, the network was largely used for video processing in the form of transcoding, and we said, hey, we're going to introduce new generative AI where you can generate videos from prompts, you can generate closed captions using AI. Those capabilities were first available via something we called a subnet. What that meant was the node operators that wanted to provide these capabilities could just sort of run like a second node, and that had these AI capabilities. And they would use the same Livepeer protocol, the same payment settling, the same staking, the same on-chain discovery, so nodes could discover them. But because they were running like a separate node, we sort of called it a sub-network. And we sort of just moved that into the beta. We did more of an open launch. And that whole code base is actually being merged back into the one Livepeer node. And there's just one Livepeer network that'll have all the AI video compute tasks that the future of video requires, from generative AI video to transcoding to video enhancement and more.
And has this initiative brought in different users into the Livepeer ecosystem? And how do you think that changes, like 3, 5, 10 years from now?
Definitely. The big difference is in the persona of the users that can actually represent the ability to send a lot of fees into the network. So in video streaming, a lot of the usage comes from what you'd probably call like more mature, traditional streaming applications. Things that actually have thousands or millions of users around the world, or they're streaming big media events in traditional markets, right? These are the people who need to spend a lot on video compute because they have a lot of content and a lot of users, right? Um, and a lot of the more like hackers or Web3 crowd, those are more like interesting, innovative experiments, but you haven't yet seen like breakout apps that represent a lot of usage in traditional video. Now on AI, this technology is so new, it's accelerating so rapidly, you actually see it flipped on its head a little bit. You see like newly funded hackers or entrepreneurs or startups that are spending a bunch of money on AI compute to generate metadata to train models or to do interesting proofs of concept and validate their products, or letting creators use these tools for free in order to capture growth. And the amount of compute required is just, it's exponential. Like I said, it's like tens, hundreds, thousands of times more compute than maybe just, text-based or other forms of media generation with AI. And so you actually see these startups and hackers willing to spend a lot more on the network. And I don't think anyone knows exactly how these tools are going to be baked into the mature products that win in the market, but you just see like this race to fund and accelerate things as well. So, really supporting innovators doing cool things. Like one example is this company that is actually ingesting and processing all of the like teen influencer content on the internet, and they're using the SAM2 model from Meta to identify what people are wearing in those videos and to make like fashion recommendations to brands to say, hey, influencers and teens and stuff are wearing these items and these colors and these trends, and these are the ones that are getting a lot of likes or comments. And they're using AI processing to basically generate like a recommendation engine and then sell that into big brands. And so it's like totally different use case than end-to-end video streaming, but our video stack and our network of GPUs that knows how to process video is really well suited to do that.
So are you in a position to tell us what to wear then, based on this algorithm?
This company would be, that's their model and their secret sauce is they're going to have the best recommendations.
I need to talk to them.
Yeah. When they announce and launch, we'll be shouting it from the rooftops.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to that. While we're here, any other notable projects that you think are worth mentioning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about these sort of innovative experiments in AI. We have sort of agent-based use cases like Flipguard and Operator, where people are using personal AI agents to, do lots of things, sort of like you would with ChatGPT to get sort of LLM interaction. But then if you want to generate media, like generate images or videos in this case, Livepeer powers those features. And so it's just giving individuals, professionals, like more creative tools at their disposal. I think the social and creator applications are really interesting. Projects like Regenerate are letting artists and creators sort of create on-chain content with the right attribution, where they can sell the products and receive the income. And if they're using Livepeer AI to power the AI aspects of that project, that is doing, I'm trying to remember what they're called. They're doing imagery in the background during live concerts and music events. The name will come to me in it. Origin Stories, it's called. Origin Stories, powering like the visuals behind musicians at big concerts around the world and stuff, using Livepeer in real time, where the fans are interacting with the musicians and using their inputs to generate the visuals. So a lot of experimentation, and we'll see how it changes the future of media.
That's really interesting. So and thinking about how we move forward, are there key metrics, like KPIs, that you are looking at to track the success, to track the growth?
Yeah, I mean, the North Star metric for Livepeer, unlike many other crypto projects, is just how much this network is being used, how much utility it's providing. And so, we've sort of captured that by how many minutes of video have been processed on the network, and it's typically between 2 and 3 million unique minutes of video per week that are ingested across this whole universe of applications. Now with the introduction of AI tasks, it's not always like minutes that are processed, because if a prompt comes in, that's not like a video that's being ingested, it's being generated. So really the fees that are spent on the network is the primary representation of the demand, right? You could think of that as like revenue in a traditional company. Here it's sort of the fees that are being spent on the network by users and paid out to the node operators. So that's one of the primary ones that we look at. And like we said, the main initiative to really grow that, not just, it's always been growing like slowly up into the right, but the thing that really represents like a potential for a game-changing level of growth is how much is being spent on AI media processing, and our network's new capabilities to do that sort of unlock that potential.
And are there, would you think about, what would you consider to be like competition, so to speak, for Livepeer?
Yeah, a lot of our users are typically choosing between Livepeer and I guess like a traditional Web 2 alternative.
Okay.
Right. So are you going to power your video streaming using Livepeer, or are you going to choose Cloudflare or Amazon IVS, right? Like a couple big companies run by traditional players. Price has been one advantage, and that often is why people will choose Livepeer if they sort of fit into that profile. But the feature competition also matters. And of course, some of those mature platforms have features that appeal to some users. And then, Livepeer has made sort of deeper investments in the cutting edge of video with low latency streaming, and even like on-chain related features like the ability to store your media on decentralized storage or mint assets as NFTs that appeal to other users. I think with AI processing, the sort of open access globally is going to be a big value prop, because AI compute is being highly regulated, especially in the United States, where there's executive orders that say, hey, if you're a data center that's providing AI compute, you have to reveal the identities to the government of any foreign users. If you're an open source researcher, you can't train a model over a certain size unless you comply with 7 different government agencies. And that's just like not accessible to a startup, a researcher, a hacker, an innovator. It costs millions of dollars, right? And so this is sort of regulatory capture by the big tech companies to prevent competition. But this is like such a transformative technology, right? It's like accelerating faster than anything else we've ever seen before. And it really should be open and accessible to researchers, hackers, developers, globally as well.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the future and upcoming growth. What's on the roadmap in the next quarter and over the next year or so? Anything that people should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, AI video, as we've been harping on. To get a little more specific, I think there's areas that the world has not really seen or experienced yet, but they're going to see in the coming year. I think live stream AI is really interesting. Like we're seeing AI already being used to like generate recorded videos, and that takes a lot of processing, and it's slow and happens behind the scenes. But as you're having a live stream, there's lots of different ways you can use AI to actually make that live stream interactive. For example, imagine we're doing an e-commerce use case and you're selling a product sort of QVC style. You can use AI to actually track and identify the products that are available on the screen. You can make them clickable and interactive so that users can click on them straight through to buy or get more information. You can get audience input in real time based on what's happening in the stream, and that's really powerful for creators to get far more engagement when things are interactive. Or you can just have really creative use cases, like, not that this would work for this call, but you see a really popular category called VTubers, where you have creators streaming, but instead of them appearing, it's like a character or an avatar that's generated on the fly in a unique landscape, and all that's powered by like video compute and AI behind the scenes. So there's not a lot of companies building towards that future, but Livepeer, with its big network of GPUs and compute in our video stack and low latency streaming stack, is really well suited to press into that area.
And what about even longer term? Like what is your long-term vision?
Yeah, so again, mission, build the world's open video infrastructure. What does that mean? What's the vision behind that? Well, if you have an infrastructure that is openly accessible, that is maximally cost effective. Like, it can't be more cost effective because you have all these people competing with idle supply at the lowest price possible to do the work in an open marketplace. That's powerful. You should have near infinite scale because there's so much idle compute, and it's a no-brainer to put it on this network to make additional revenue. And then sort of maximal reliability, because if it's cost effective and you have this scale, you can afford redundancies, you have no single points of failure. So that infrastructure sounds really powerful. It's like a no-brainer. But because this network's actually coordinated by the Livepeer token, and those who hold it and stake it want the project to succeed, they want it to be used, you see people building great open source software to freely use and access this network. And open source software that's free and awesome should also be adopted as a no-brainer versus paying for proprietary expensive software that you have to license. And so if you have this combination of, world's best infrastructure for, video streaming in the future of AI video compute with the world's best open source software, this combination should power 90% of the video workflows on the internet. Livepeer should be video. It should be a protocol that's owned and operated by everyone around the world and every stakeholder, the same way the internet is built on these common protocols like HTTP and SSL. All video should flow through Livepeer software or the network, and Livepeer is video. And that's it's a big, ambitious vision. It's a 10+ year vision, but we've been on it for a while, making good progress on many of the fronts, and a lot of work to do. But our community is really passionate and bought in and growing. So moving towards it.
Fortune favors the bold.
That's right.
Challenges. What do you think are the biggest challenges that you have been facing or that you might face as you work towards this lofty mission?
Yeah, I think for any startup, really finding the product market fit with the right entry point that's differentiated that the market needs and wants to consume right now continues to be an ongoing effort across many of the companies that build in the Livepeer ecosystem. I think video is, like I said, it's been around for 70+ years. It's been on the internet for 30+ years. It's a crowded, competitive space. It's a very fragmented stack with a lot of workflows. So how do the products that are built on Livepeer really offer the right killer solution to be adopted at a fast pace? And so you see products like Livepeer Studio that are growing and are competitive with traditional spaces. But I think we really look towards the future of what's going to be enabled in video. Where does Livepeer offer and a decentralized network offer a unique advantage? How do we get out ahead of building the right products around that? How do you do the traditional go-to-market to scale and grow those businesses? And I think any entrepreneur will tell you that's a challenge in their industry, but that's what it's going to be about for Livepeer getting wide adoption as well.
Well, thank you. That covers it for my questions, but I think we do have some time to go over some audience questions or some investor questions. So why don't I dig into a couple of those? Let's see. There's a lot of talk about the GPU supply chain and how it's heavily concentrated with a few manufacturers that can lead to supply shortages. How does this impact Livepeer? I would think that you guys are creating a solution for this very problem, but I'll let you answer.
Yeah, really, really great question. A little bit of background for those who don't know. There's a company called NVIDIA, one of the highest market cap companies in the world. They construct the majority of the GPUs that are powering this AI boom. They're supply constrained themselves by a company called TSMC, the Taiwan-based semiconductor manufacturer. So NVIDIA can only make as many GPUs as chips they can get from TSMC. The majority of the NVIDIA GPUs are bought by the big US tech companies, Meta, Amazon, Google, OpenAI, et cetera. And you can only buy these GPUs if you're spending like $100 million at once. So you really have limited access to who gets them. Once they're deployed in those data centers and provisioned, you can only get enough capacity if you do a year's buy. So there's a shortage that's not accessible to innovators, researchers, hackers, startups, et cetera, or it's very expensive. It's marked up. So how does Livepeer address this? First of all, Livepeer is an open marketplace where anyone with idle GPUs can make them available and compete for work. So that does address the long tail of maybe the hobbyists or crypto miners or prosumers that have some that want to aggregate them together. And as a result, we do see thousands and thousands of GPUs being aggregated. Secondly, those big data centers that could make those $100 million buys sort of had to do it in advance of even selling their capacity. And that capacity is not going to be fully provisioned 100% of the time. And so, when it's idle, they can make it available on the Livepeer network as well, sort of as a no-brainer to generate additional revenue. And so, again, we think this open marketplace that taps into this idle supply in an open, non-constrained way, you don't need permission from a company, you don't need a contract, et cetera, represents a big source of a solution for developers. And we see that. We see the supply on the Livepeer networks, vastly outpaces the demand, just because it's sort of a no-brainer to add your supply.
Let's see. Can you discuss any data or metrics that demonstrate any cost savings for using Livepeer compared to other platforms? So we talked about how it's more efficient and cheaper. Is there any data that you can offer to support that?
Yeah. So if you want to transcode a live stream on the Livepeer network, that means you're ingesting the live stream, you're doing the compute power to convert it into all the different formats to deliver to the different devices. The Livepeer network right now, if you run a node, I believe you can get a price of about 3 to 4 cents per hour of video that you're ingesting to transcode it. If you're trying to rent servers on AWS to do that, it's going to cost you about 20 to 30 cents per hour. And if you're going to use a premium video hosted service, like some of the companies I mentioned before, it's going to cost you $2 to $6 per hour. So you see a tremendous difference between the $2 to $6 an hour versus the 3 cents an hour on the Livepeer network. And for anyone just consuming like the transcode only and willing to go through that integration, can represent a really compelling option. Now, I want to be fair, it's not quite apples to apples. Like typically there's other features around it, there's bundled services. Most users use the hosted Livepeer Studio Gateway product, which bundles some other features around and has a higher cost as well. But that's sort of the potential of disruption. And as the network gets more decentralized, as more people are building on it directly, I think you'll see this sort of price impact trickle more and more out to the end users at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking orders of magnitude.
Yep.
So let's see. I think we have time for a couple more questions. Can you talk about growth in terms of minutes transcoded or active nodes over the past year? I think we talked a little bit about the high level trends. Is there anything interesting you're seeing just from a more recent perspective in the trends?
Yeah, more recently, as we launched Livepeer AI's compute capabilities, it's only been out for a few months, even in alpha, and only a couple of weeks sort of as a more mature developer product. But we've seen a steady uptick. So with video, the last year, we've seen sort of like, slow growth of the transcoding minutes. Some users churn, streaming is a tough business as new users get added. But then as soon as we launched the AI capabilities, we saw that grow, let's say like 20 to 30% in terms of fees over the few weeks we were in the alpha. And then sort of as soon as some of the startups that are going through our design partnership program have launched, and I mentioned one doing these video analysis runs for the fashion training, we actually saw like in a single week, the fees nearly tripled on the Livepeer network just from one startup doing sort of one analysis run for a week's period of time. And they finished that run, and there's like a leveling effect. But again, them and other startups are gearing up to do like their next run, and as they're adding more users, they're going to be doing more runs. And it really, like I said, represents a sort of order of magnitude growth potential as well. So I think that's the trend, is that, let's call it like consumption of infinite compute by processing and analyzing data using AI represents sort of an untapped opportunity for the network, untapped growth opportunity for the network, whereas video transcoding alone sort of depends on the users of the network themselves growing and having more users generating more video.
Great. So, I mean, I think that we're at a good stopping point. Thank you so much for joining me, Doug. This has been awesome. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I hope that everyone has a great afternoon and a great rest of their day.
Thanks, Ray. Great to join you today. I appreciate being here. you.